My daughter thought power of attorney made the house hers. She learned what it actually meant the day she tried to list it for sale. I found out because a real estate photographer arrived at my front door while I was still wearing my robe. It was 9:15 on a Wednesday morning. The man held a camera bag in one hand and a small tripod in the other. "Good morning, Mrs. Whitaker," he said. "I'm here for the listing photographs." I stared at him. "What listing?" He checked his phone. 14 Maple Hollow Road. "That is this address." "Yes, ma'am." "My house is not for sale." His smile disappeared. He looked back at the screen. The appointment was scheduled by Amanda Collins. My daughter. I gripped the edge of the door. "Did Amanda tell you she owns this house?" "She said she had authority to sell it." I asked him to wait on the porch. Then I called her. Amanda answered immediately. "Mom, I'm in a meeting. There is a photographer at my door." Silence. Then she exhaled. "I was going to explain." "Explain what?" "The house needs to be listed before the market changes. The house is not for sale." "We've discussed this." "No, you discussed it." Her voice became firmer. "Mom, I have power of attorney. I'm allowed to make property decisions for you." That was the moment I understood what she believed. Amanda thought the document I signed, while recovering from surgery, had transferred my ownership to her. She thought being my agent made her the decision maker. She thought my house had become an asset she could sell whenever she decided it was best. I looked through the glass beside the door at the photographer waiting awkwardly on my porch. Then I said, "Do not authorize another person to enter this property." "You're being emotional." "I am being clear. The proceeds would pay for your care. I live independently. For now." Those 2 words told me the sale was not only about money. My daughter had already made plans for where I would live, what I would keep, and how much independence I was allowed to have. I ended the call. Then I told the photographer there would be no photographs. He apologized and left. Amanda believed that was a temporary delay. She had no idea that by the end of the week, the power of attorney would be revoked, the listing agreement would be canceled, and a lawyer would explain in language even she could not reinterpret that my house had never belonged to her. My name is Carol Whitaker. I was 69 years old when my daughter tried to sell my home. The house sat on a quiet street outside Richmond, Virginia. It was a 2-story brick colonial with a deep backyard, a sunroom, and a kitchen my husband, James, remodeled himself 20 years earlier. James and I bought it when Amanda was 6. Our son Luke was 3. The house was not simply where we lived. It was where our family became itself. Amanda learned to play piano in the front room. Luke broke his arm falling from the oak tree near the fence. James built shelves in the basement and marked the children's heights on the side of a doorway. After James died, those marks became one of the things I could not imagine leaving. He passed away 4 years before the photographer came. It was a heart attack. There was no long illness. No time to prepare. He left for the hardware store one Saturday morning and never came home. For the first year after his death, I lived in a fog. I forgot appointments. I left laundry in the washing machine overnight. I opened the same piece of mail twice because I could not remember reading it. Amanda stepped in. She lived 15 minutes away and worked as a regional manager for a medical supply company. She was organized, decisive, and accustomed to people following her instructions. At first, her help was a relief. She called insurance companies. She organized James's pension paperwork. She scheduled repairs. She created lists. Luke lived in Colorado and could only visit several times a year. He called often, but Amanda handled the practical details. I was grateful. That gratitude made it harder to recognize when help became control. The power of attorney came after my hip surgery. I had fallen on the back steps during winter and fractured my hip. The surgery went well, but recovery was slow. For several weeks, I used a walker. I needed help with meals, transportation, and bills. Amanda stayed at my house most evenings. One afternoon, she brought a folder. This will make things easier, she said. Inside was a durable financial power of attorney. The document named Amanda as my agent. It allowed her to pay bills, communicate with banks, handle insurance, and manage certain financial matters if I needed assistance. I read part of it. Not all of it. I was taking pain medication. My leg ached. Amanda explained that it did not change ownership of anything. It just lets me act for you when necessary, she said. Does Luke need to sign? No, this is your decision. Should I have an attorney review it? Amanda looked hurt. Mom, I'm trying to help you. That sentence made me feel guilty. So I signed. The document was notarized at my kitchen table. For the first few months, Amanda used it appropriately. She paid utilities. She handled an insurance claim. She deposited a check when I could not drive. But after I recovered, she did not step back. She kept the banking password. She continued opening certain mail. She began questioning purchases. When I hired a gardener, she said it was a waste of money. When I booked a trip with 2 friends, she asked whether travel was safe at my age. When I replaced the dishwasher, she wanted to know why I had not consulted her. I don't need permission to buy an appliance, I said. I didn't say permission. You asked why I didn't consult you. That is different. It was not very different. Then she began talking about the house. At first, she framed it as concern. The stairs were dangerous. The yard required maintenance. The neighborhood was becoming expensive. A smaller condominium would be easier. I listened. I even toured one retirement community with her. It was pleasant. It also felt like a place someone else had selected for a version of me who no longer made decisions. I'm not ready, I said. Amanda looked frustrated. You always say that. Because it is true. What happens when you fall again? I install another railing. What happens when you can't drive? I make another plan. You act like every problem can be postponed. You act like every possible problem has already happened. That argument became the beginning of a pattern. Amanda saw the future as a crisis she needed to manage before it arrived. I saw it as my remaining life. The difference mattered. Then her financial situation changed. Amanda had always appeared successful. She drove a new SUV. She wore expensive clothes. She lived in a large house with her husband, Paul. They took vacations. They sent their daughter to a private college. I later learned much of that life depended on debt. Paul's business lost a major contract. Amanda's company reduced bonuses. Their daughter's tuition increased. They refinanced their home twice. I knew none of this at the time. What I noticed was that Amanda became more interested in the value of my house. She asked whether the mortgage was fully paid. It was. She asked when it had last been appraised. I did not know. She asked where James had stored the deed. At the bank. One afternoon, I came into the dining room and found her photographing the property tax statement. Why do you need that? For your records. They are already my records. She smiled. I'm organizing. The word organizing began to make me uncomfortable. Amanda organized my bills. Then my appointments. Then my future. She made a spreadsheet comparing the cost of my house with 3 senior living communities. The spreadsheet assumed the house would sell for $620,000. It also assumed that after paying entrance fees and care costs, a large amount would remain invested. She presented it like a business proposal. You could be completely secure, she said. I am already secure. You're tied to a house that is too large. I like my house. That is emotional thinking. It is my home, emotion is allowed. She leaned back. Dad would want you safe. Your father would want me consulted. She became quiet. James had never tolerated people speaking over me. That included our children. A week later, Amanda brought a real estate agent named Melissa Hart to the house. She claimed Melissa was only a friend. But within 10 minutes, Melissa was discussing market timing. This neighborhood is very desirable, she said. If the house is prepared correctly, you may receive multiple offers. I'm not selling. Amanda laughed lightly. Mom is still adjusting to the idea. I am not adjusting, I am declining. Melissa looked embarrassed. She left shortly afterward. Amanda accused me of humiliating her. You invited a real estate agent into my home without asking. She was giving free advice. I did not request advice. You resist everything. No, I resist decisions you make for me. Amanda picked up her bag. I have legal responsibility for your well-being. You have authority to assist with finances. Same thing. No. She left angry. That evening, I found my copy of the power of attorney. I read it slowly. The document gave Amanda broad authority to manage financial matters on my behalf. It allowed her to sign documents as my agent. It allowed her to handle real estate transactions. That language frightened me. Could she legally sell my house? The next morning, I called an attorney named Rachel Monroe. Rachel had updated James's and my wills years earlier. I had not spoken with her since his death. I explained the situation. She asked me to bring the document. At her office, she read every page. Then she asked, "Do you still have full mental capacity?" Yes. Do you want Amanda to sell the house? No. Then she cannot use this document to override your decision. I felt my shoulders relax. But it says she can handle real estate. She can act as your agent within the authority you grant. She owes duties to you. She must act in your interest and according to your instructions. Power of attorney does not transfer ownership. So the house is still mine. Completely. Can she sign a listing agreement? She may be able to sign as your agent if acting within her authority, but if she knows you object, doing so would raise serious issues. We can revoke the document immediately. I hesitated. Amanda was my daughter. Revoking the document felt like declaring her untrustworthy. Rachel seemed to understand. Carol, revocation is not a criminal accusation. It is a decision about who may act for you. What if I need help later? You can create a new document with narrower authority and safeguards. I took the papers home. I told myself I would speak with Amanda first. I wanted to believe a conversation could correct everything. Then the photographer arrived. After sending him away, I called Rachel. Revoke it. She prepared the revocation that afternoon. We signed it. Copies were sent to my bank, investment company, insurance provider, and any other institution where Amanda might have used the original document. Rachel also prepared notice stating that Amanda had no authority to list, sell, mortgage, lease, or alter ownership of my property. Then we contacted the real estate agent. Melissa answered immediately. She had already received a signed listing agreement from Amanda. The agreement listed the house at $649,000. Amanda had signed. Carol Whitaker by Amanda Collins, attorney in fact. My hands went cold. Has the listing gone live? Rachel asked. Not yet, Melissa said. We were waiting for photographs. Cancel it. I need written confirmation. You will receive it today. Melissa sounded relieved. She explained that Amanda had represented the sale as fully approved. She said I was moving into assisted living. She said I was overwhelmed and had asked her to manage everything. None of that was true. I was not moving. I was not overwhelmed. And I had never agreed to sell. Rachel sent the revocation and cancellation notice. Melissa canceled the agreement without charging a fee. The immediate problem was stopped. But we still needed to understand how far Amanda had gone. Rachel advised me to review my finances. We requested 12 months of bank records. Most transactions were ordinary. Then we found 2 payments to a company called Collins Property Planning. The total was $6,000. Paul, Amanda's husband, owned Collins Property Planning. The company usually handled small commercial consulting projects. I had never hired it. The payment description said, Estate Transition Services. I called Amanda. Why did my account pay Paul's company $6,000? Silence. Then she said, he did planning work. For whom? For you. What planning? Property analysis, moving estimates, senior living comparisons. I did not authorize that. You gave me authority. To pay my bills. To manage your financial affairs. That does not mean paying your husband's company for services I never requested. She became angry. Do you have any idea how much time we have spent on this? No one asked you to. You will need these plans eventually. Eventually does not create an invoice today. Her voice rose. You are being manipulated by that lawyer. My lawyer explained the document you gave me. I did not give it to you, you signed it. I signed authority to help me, I did not give you the house. Amanda became quiet. Then she said, what have you done? I revoked the power of attorney. The silence on the line felt enormous. You can't. I already did. You need me. I may need assistance, I do not need control. What happens when you make a mistake? I correct it. What happens when something goes wrong? I decide who helps. She hung up. 2 hours later, she arrived at my house. Paul came with her. Amanda was holding a folder. You cannot revoke this without discussing it with me, she said before sitting down. Yes, I can. You appointed me because I'm the responsible child. I appointed you because I was recovering from surgery. Luke joined the conversation by video from Colorado. Rachel was also present. I did not want another family meeting controlled by emotion. Amanda placed the original power of attorney document on the table. This gives me authority over real estate. Rachel answered calmly. It appoints you as an agent. It does not make you an owner. I can act for her only within your legal duties and subject to her instructions while she has capacity. She is refusing a sale that is clearly in her best interest. That is her choice. What if her choice is irrational? Disagreeing with you is not incapacity. Paul leaned forward. The house is expensive to maintain. I looked at him. Why did your company receive $6,000? His face changed. Amanda answered. For planning services. Show me the agreement I signed. There wasn't a formal agreement. Show me the scope of work. Paul looked toward her. Show me the invoices. Amanda opened the folder. Inside were 3 invoices created within the previous month. Each one described vague services. Property review. Transition planning. Housing research. The dates did not match the payments. Rachel examined them. These invoices appear to have been prepared after payment. Paul said nothing. Amanda's voice became defensive. We spent hours helping. Then you should have asked whether I wanted to hire you, I said. You benefit from our work. I did not request it. Luke spoke from the screen. Amanda, did Mom know the house was being listed? She knew we were discussing it. That is not what I asked. She refused to make a decision. No is a decision, I said. Amanda turned toward me. You do not understand the risk of staying here. Then explain the risk without taking the choice. You could fall. I could fall anywhere. You could become isolated. I have friends, neighbors, and transportation. The house could lose value. I am living in it, not trading it. She slammed her hand on the table. This is exactly what Dad did. He held on to everything until someone else had to clean it up. The room became still. James had been careful. Sometimes overly careful. But he had not left chaos. His records were organized. His estate plan was clear. Amanda was not angry about disorder. She was angry that the assets remained outside her control. Rachel asked whether Amanda had contacted any lenders. Amanda looked away. That answer was enough. What lenders? I asked. Paul finally spoke. We explored a bridge loan. My stomach tightened. Against what? The property. Amanda said it was only preliminary. You tried to borrow against my house. We were looking at options. For me. For the transition. What transition? She did not answer. Rachel requested details. Paul explained reluctantly. He and Amanda had planned to use a short-term line of credit secured by the house. The funds would pay for repairs, staging, moving costs, and an entrance deposit at a retirement community. After the sale, the loan would be repaid. That was the official explanation. Then Luke asked a better question. How much did you apply for? Paul looked down. $180,000. The house did not need $180,000 of preparation. Where would the rest go? I asked. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. We needed liquidity. For what? Paul's company had lost 2 clients. They were behind on taxes. Their daughter's tuition was due. They had expected to be repaid from my house sale for transition services, consulting, and the time Amanda spent managing my affairs. They had not yet received the loan. The lender required additional verification and an appraisal. But the application identified Amanda as attorney-in-fact and described the house sale as approved. I stared at my daughter. You were going to use my house to solve your financial problems. No. Yes. We were going to repay everything. With money from selling my home. You would still have enough for care. That was not your calculation to make. Amanda began crying. I have spent 4 years managing everything since Dad died. I did not ask you to manage everything. You would not have survived without me. The sentence hurt. Not because it was true. Because Amanda needed it to be true. If I had survived because of her, then her control could feel deserved. If I remained capable, then her actions looked exactly like what they were. Overreach. Rachel explained the legal position. The power of attorney had been revoked. The listing was canceled. The loan application had to be withdrawn. The $6,000 paid to Paul's company required reimbursement unless they could prove I knowingly approved the services. They could not. Amanda argued. Paul stayed quiet. Luke asked her to stop. For the first time in years, my daughter looked around the room and realized no one accepted her version of responsibility. I did not threaten criminal charges. No police arrived. Nothing happened instantly. Rachel sent formal notices to the lender and financial institutions. The loan application was closed. Paul's company repaid the $6,000 over 4 months. My accounts were changed. Amanda's access was removed. I created a new, limited power of attorney. Luke and Rachel were named as co-agents, but the authority would become active only if 2 physicians confirmed I could no longer manage my affairs. Real estate could not be sold without independent review and written notice to both children. Any payment to a family member or family-owned company required documentation and approval from the other agent. The new document was longer. More complicated. Also safer. Amanda did not speak to me for almost 5 months. She told relatives I had been turned against her. She said Luke had taken control from a distance. She said my lawyer had frightened me. I did not defend myself to everyone. Documents do not require gossip to remain true. The house stayed mine. I hired a contractor to install better railings. I moved my bedroom to the 1st floor. I arranged lawn care. I joined a local transportation service for older adults. I addressed the concerns Amanda had raised without surrendering the decision. That mattered. She had not been wrong that the house required planning. She had been wrong to believe planning gave her ownership. Luke visited that summer. He walked through the house and asked what I wanted. Not what I should do. What I wanted. I want to stay for at least 3 more years, I said. Then we planned for that. He helped me create an emergency file. Not a file he controlled. A file I understood. We listed accounts, insurance, medical information, repair contacts, and legal documents. I kept 1 copy. Rachel kept another. Luke knew where they were. Amanda did not. That felt sad. It also felt necessary. 9 months after the photographer came, Amanda called. Can I visit? I hesitated. Then I said yes. She arrived alone. For the first time, she looked tired rather than angry. We sat in the sunroom. She looked around at the plants James had built shelves for. "You changed the railing," she said. "Yes. It looks good." "Thank you." Silence followed. Then she said, "Paul and I are selling our house." I did not ask why. She told me anyway. They could no longer maintain the payments. His company had closed. They were moving into a smaller rental and paying down debt. "I thought if your house sold, we could fix everything," she said. "For whom?" "For all of us." "That is not true." She looked down. "No." I waited. She continued. "I told myself you needed to move." "Did you believe it?" "Partly. And the other part, I needed the sale to happen." The honesty hurt less than the explanations had. "Why didn't you ask for help?" "Because you might say no." "Then you understood the boundary." "Yes." She began to cry. "I thought power of attorney meant I was responsible for deciding. It meant you were responsible for carrying out my decisions. I know that now." That sentence was the beginning of repair. Not the apology. The understanding. Amanda had treated agency as ownership because ownership gave her the result she wanted. Now she finally understood the role was the opposite. An agent manages another person's interests, not her own. "What are you sorry for?" I asked. She looked at me. "For listing the house without permission." I waited. "For using the document to make people believe you had agreed." Another pause. "For paying Paul's company from your account." Her voice broke. "And for telling myself your age made my decisions more important than yours." I nodded. "I accept your apology." "Do you forgive me?" "I am trying." She wiped her face. "Will you ever trust me again?" "Not with financial authority." The answer hurt her. I could see it. But she did not argue. "That is fair," she said. That mattered too. We began rebuilding our relationship outside money. Amanda visited for dinner. She stopped opening my mail. She stopped asking for account balances. When she had opinions about the house, she waited until I asked. Sometimes I did ask. She was still organized. Still decisive. Those qualities had not become evil. They simply needed boundaries. 2 years later, I chose to sell the house. My choice. Not because Amanda had been right all along. Because my life had changed. The stairs had become harder. 2 close friends had moved. The neighborhood no longer felt as connected. I found a smaller 1-story home near Luke's family, but still close enough for Amanda to visit. Before listing the house, I invited both children over. We sat at the dining room table. Amanda looked nervous. "I've decided to sell," I said. She stared at me. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "What made you decide?" I explained. She listened. Then she asked, "Do you want help?" Not, "What should we do?" Not, "I'll handle it." "Do you want help?" "Yes," I said, "with the sorting." She smiled. "I can do that." Luke helped interview agents. Rachel reviewed the contract. I signed every document myself. The house sold for more than Amanda's earlier estimate. Most of the money went into accounts in my name. A portion purchased my new home. Another portion funded long-term care insurance and a reserve for future needs. I gave each child a modest gift. Not because either was entitled to the sale proceeds. Because I wanted to. That difference made the gift feel like love instead of surrender. On the final day, Amanda stood with me in the empty kitchen. The marks showing her childhood height were still visible inside the basement doorway. She touched them with her fingertips. "I almost took this from you," she said. "You almost took the choice." She nodded. That was worse. She was right. The house was never the only issue. Ownership was. Agency was. The right to decide when one chapter of my life ended. Power of attorney did not give Amanda my house. It did not give her my bank accounts. It did not give her my future. It gave her a duty to act for me, not instead of me. That is what she misunderstood. Or perhaps what she chose not to understand, while the misunderstanding benefited her. The old power of attorney document remains in my legal file. Across the front, Rachel stamped one word: revoked. I keep it because it reminds me how ordinary the danger looked. A daughter helping after surgery. A signature at a kitchen table. A few passwords. A few bills. Then a real estate agent. A photographer. A loan application. Control rarely begins with someone announcing that they intend to take your independence. It begins with convenience. Let me handle that. You do not need to worry. I know what is best. Eventually, the person helping may forget that the life remains yours. Amanda forgot. Then the law, the records, and my refusal reminded her. My daughter thought power of attorney made the house hers. It did not. It made her accountable to me. It required loyalty. It required honesty. It required her to separate my interests from her financial problems. The moment she used that authority against my instructions, she stopped acting as my agent and started acting for herself. That was the line. Revoking the document did not destroy our family. It forced us to build a relationship in which help had to be offered, accepted, and limited. Amanda remained my daughter. She did not remain my financial agent. I remained her mother. I did not become her asset. And when I finally sold the house, I left through the front door carrying my own keys, having made my own decision on my own time.